Thank you. So, welcome everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on a Saturday morning for taking some time out to be part of our initiative. Management through Movies is an initiative and it's sponsored by Square Sequel Consulting. Started about 4 years ago when we decided to take the learnings of that we derive in sessions in training programs that we do through movie clips through videos, from everything that is available in our through Bollywood, Hollywood, all these movies that are provided to us, and take those learnings outside the classroom. So we started this management through movies as an effort to take learning outside the classroom and have an opportunity to learn from every movie that we see. At Square Sequel, we do not promote or we do not review any movie. We're not recommending that you watch a particular movie or you don't. We're strictly watching movies in a purpose to find some learnings, leadership lessons, management lessons, and some learnings out of them. Okay. Uh, I think from here, let me introduce Arvind Mishra. Arvind Mishra is is a core associate with us from a long time, has been working, and I'm happy to hand it over to him to take it from.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Zoya, and welcome you all on the Management Through Movies Square Sequel Consulting Private Limited session. And let me enter Abhishek. He has just joined. Okay, so today we are going to talk about a movie, and why is it not working? Right. So the movie which we are going to talk about today, the name of the movie is Hidden Figures, and it was directed by Theodore Melfi. And the cast has Octavia Spencer, Traji P. Henson, Janela Monáe, and Kevin Costner. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a movie based on the real-time story, and it's based on the novel Hidden Figures by the same name, and authored by Margaret Lee Shantley. And it's streaming on Disney and Hotstar. And today's agenda for the next half an hour is going to be: we are going to talk about the storyline of the movie. We are going to understand the learnings from the movie Hidden Figures. And after that, we'll have question and answers. And let me also tell you, as Zoe has already mentioned, it's a disclaimer. And it says that we learn from the movies and we are no way promoting these movies. Or we don't recommend whether you should watch this movie or not. But yes, if you'll watch this movie, perhaps you will be able to understand the learnings or the discussions which you are going to have right now in a better way. Right? So let me take you through a brief introduction about this movie. This movie, the real story of three Afro-American women. One of them was an analytical engineer, analytical geometry expert, which was played by Catherine Gobble. Let me silent. My request to all the people who have joined in to just keep their mic on mute so that the disturbances and those sounds which we don't want to listen or hear should come out, right? Okay, let me go back to the brief introduction. This movie is a real story of three Afro-American women. One was an analytical geometry expert. Her name was Catherine Gobble, played by Tara G.P. Hansen. And the other was an engineer, and that was played by that is played by Janelle Monáe. And the name of the engineer was Mary Jackson. And the third one was an administrator, and her name was Dorothy Vaughan, and the role is played by Octavia Spencer. And let me tell you, each one of them were driven by passion. And what did they do in the movie? When they played a very vital role in the real life story, in the astronaut in the launch of John Glenn, the first astronaut from United States into orbit. And easier said than done. They had to deal with racial and gender discrimination, because the background of the story goes back to 1960s, and in those time, in the period of 1960 to 70, there was a very cutthroat competition between the United States of America and USSR for the supremacy in the space technology, right? And at that time, US society is represented as a racist society where the non-whites are addressed as colored. Mind the word colored, right? And colored humans are given a differential underprivileged treatment. So much so that even the washroom for the colored was were named as colored washroom, right? And they, yes, as I said, that they used to have different washrooms, and not only being racist, society was also being shown as and was also gender bias. And there are certain schools which are only white schools, and certain jobs which were and positions which are only supposed to be done by the whites and preferably by the males. So this was the situation and the backdrop in which the movie has been written, in which the novel has been written and the movie has been made. Right. So let me take you through the trailer of a movie. Let's enjoy the trailer, and let me have the right settings. Okay. So let's enjoy the trailer.
Y'all gonna end up unemployed riding around in this pile of junk. You're welcome to walk this.
Okay, before I proceed with the entire full trailer, just let me know if the audio and video is clear to all of you. Just type AV in the chat box. Fantastic. Thank you, Priya. Great. So let's enjoy the trailer.
16 miles. Oh, sit in the back of the bus.
You have identification on them?
NASA, sir.
NASA? I had no idea they hired.
There are quite a few women working in the space program.
Least I can do is give y'all an escort.
3 Negro women are chasing a white police officer down the highway in 1961. That is a God-ordained miracle.
In 14 days, astronauts will be here for training. And we're shooting a human into space, and it's never been done before. With the launch of the Russian spy satellite, the president is demanding an immediate response.
Running from the man.
Space Test Group needs a computer.
Catherine is the gal for that. She can handle any numbers you put in front of her.
You and I are different from each other.
This is about inventing the math, because without it, we're not going anywhere.
Yes, sir. That's John Glenn.
What do you guys do for NASA?
Calculate your launch and landing, sir. How could you be ogling these white men? It's equal rights. I have the right to see fine in every color.
Oh, left, found it.
If you were a white male, would you wish to be an engineer?
I wouldn't have to. I'd already be one.
Yes, it's an uphill battle.
Get it, girl.
But guess who else is playing?
I don't know if I can keep up in that room.
Just make that pencil move as fast as your mind does.
You've been gone for 300 hours.
Felt like it to me, too. Colonel Glenn launches in a few weeks. We don't have the math figured out yet.
There's no protocol for women attending.
There's no protocol for a man circling the Earth either, sir.
Every time we have a chance to get ahead, they move the finish line.
I need to be in that room hearing what you hear.
Within these walls, who makes the rules?
You, sir, you are the boss. You just have to act like one, sir.
We have liftoff.
We all get there together, or we don't get there at all. In the fight of our lives, people.
My gals are ready. We can do the work.
More than 50 million Americans watching. I got a warning light.
Go find Catherine.
Colonel Glenn?
There's a real fireball outside. It's getting a little hot in here. No protocol for women attending.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was a trailer of the movie. And let's quickly go through the learnings which we acquire from this movie. Right?
There's no protocol.
So the first thing which we understand from this movie was look at the bigger picture. And this comes out very clearly when Catherine Global was asked, what do we do here? So since she was an analytical geometry expert, she didn't say that I play with numbers, or I do the things with the numbers, or I give you the final outcome by understanding the numbers. She mentioned we tried to put the man in the space. So it was a final picture of the bigger picture in which she understood that her contribution was paramount. So it's always very, very important to look at the bigger picture. Because what happens when you look at the bigger picture, the final outcomes designs our strategy. And our strategy and our contribution is in commensuration with the final picture. When the final picture and our strategies are in the right place, we synergize. And when we synergize, our speed and contribution and execution becomes better. And how can we look at the bigger picture? We can look at the bigger picture by creating the picture of the final outcome in the mind first before it sees the light of the day. Because if we can create the final picture in the mind first, we all know that we will be able to convince ourselves better. We'll we'll start to believe ourselves, and once we believe in ourselves, we can expect others to believe in us as well, and that's what we call conviction. So once we have created the final picture, we've got a better conviction. Perhaps we'll be able to convince others as well in whatever we want to do, and that's why when Mary Jackson says that she wants to be an engineer at NASA, she looked out at a possibility. She convinced herself in the mind that she can be the first black engineer, black woman engineer in NASA. And she became the first engineer from to study from the University of Virginia. And let me tell you, in those times, University of Virginia was an all-white institute, and non-whites were not allowed to be there. And she was the first one to be there. And she said, I want to touch the stars. So she looked at the bigger picture, and that resulted in her success. Can I just request once again all the participants to please mute themselves? Okay, now let's look at the second learning which comes. And the second learning which comes is that resources are always limited and situations are never ideal. As we all know, never in the life the situations are going to be ideal. Perhaps we will have to make those situations ideal. And resources are never ever unlimited. If you look in this movie, there was a time when there's just some sounds are coming. Let me make everyone mute. Okay. So if you look at this movie, you'll find that at one situation when Dorothy was working, IBM entered into the space. And what is IBM? Can anyone tell me the full form of IBM? Quickly. Nevertheless, it is International Business Machines. When International Business Machines came, the entire group of ladies, they were on the jeopardy of losing their assignments. Why? Because this computer was able to do lot many calculations than those ladies were doing for them. And what did and how did she responded to it? She did not resist the change. She accepted the change. She said, "Okay, fine. If IBM is coming, then IBM will definitely require some people to work. It will not work automatically." So what did she do? How did she respond? She became an expert at IBM. And when she became an expert, she didn't only become herself an expert, she also trained her entire team. And when she trained her entire team, she created a force which were ready to work on the systems of IBM. And what she did do? She looked at the things which were in her control rather than bothering about the things which are not in her control. She didn't crib. She didn't say as to what is this happening around me? Why does this happen always with me? But she did something which was in her control. And what was in her control? To become an expert. And not only become an expert, she also trained her team. So, ladies and gentlemen, she didn't crib about the resources being limited and situations not being ideal. She responded to it, accepted the change, and made the change work in her favor. So this is resources are limited and situations are not right, never ideal. Let us go to learning number 3. And the learning number 3 says trust needs both competence and character. Trust, definitely, we all know that competence is required for trust, but character is required as well. As we saw in this movie, when uh, when we had the lady who was an analytical geometric expert, she solved the most complicated mathematical equations in front of the entire group. And when she did that, her authority on the subject was displayed. But that was not enough. She also helped others to gain the trust. In this movie, if you look at Dorothy Vaughan helped others to develop. And when she worked and helped others to develop, they had the trust in her. And not only that, when we talk about the lady who was an expert at analytical geometry, her washroom was approximately 2 kilometers away from her workstation. And before she actually complained about it, she used to run away to the washroom and come back. And while she was going to the washroom, she was taking her papers along, and she was doing those assignments while she was sitting in the in the washroom. Look at the kind of character she was displaying. So it was not only the competence, but also the character, which helped her boss to have the trust in her. Right? And as as a leader, Mr. Harrison, who was a boss, who his job was to find the genius amongst the genius. The entire group was having the best of this, best of the employees, best of the people from the United States. But his job was to find the genius among the genius. And when we do that, trust enhances. And trust also enhances when people are driven by bigger values, not by opportunities. Because the final outcome, when that on the final values or the bigger values, they decide a strategy, then the unbiased approach is not there. And when the unbiased approach is not there, definitely trust is developed because character and competence both are displayed and exhibited. So this was learning number 3. Let's go to learning number 4. And that says, be always proactive. Stand up for the values and cause. Just don't wait for the things to happen. And that was displayed very clearly in a particular instance when the lady who used to run to 2 kilometers for the washroom, and one fine day when her boss says, why do you require 2 hours or 1 hour for a washroom? That was the time when she shouted out and she proactively said, okay, these are the things, these are the problems I am facing. And the thing is that when you are proactive and you tell about yourself, when you speak about yourself, it's when you stand up for your values, there is a situation that your offer can be rejected or whatever you want to propose that can be rejected. But in case if you don't stand, it stands rejected, right? So always stand up for your values and causes. Speak up for yourself as no one else is going to speak for you. As they always said, when Dorothy, who was working as a very working as a senior supervisor without the designation, whenever she used to speak about her promotion as a supervisor, she was given an answer. At NASA, we are fast with rocket ships, but not with advancements of people. So but despite listening to this, she was every time telling her supervisor that I need to be promoted. So she was speaking about herself, and not only about herself, but also giving her enough reasons for the same. And the same was done by Mary Jackson as well. As I told you, Mary Jackson was a lady who was having an engineer's mindset that was told by her boss. So if someone is having an engineer's mindset, she should become an engineer as well. But it was not so easy. As I told you, that there was the engineers can only become engineers once they have got degree from the University of Virginia. And University of Virginia was an all whites university. And Mary Jackson, being a black, was not allowed to get an admission there. So what she did do? She went to the court. And when she went to the court, she explained it to the justice there that why she wants to be there and what are the reasons. And out of the and how did she do that? She was able to do this, Mary Jackson, because she always used to dream big. She used to say that if anything is not happening, that anything which has not happened earlier, I can be the first one to do that. She said, be the first one, set the precedent so that others can follow. And that's what she told to the judge inside the courtroom as well. And when the judge asked him, why do you want? What is the point? Why do you want to be the first one? So she told him, you are the first state judge who is recommissioned 3 times by the governors. And how are you going to be remembered in the history? By being the first one. So if you are the first one, you are going to be remembered in the history. You are going to set the precedence. So she says, don't. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, that if we want to dream big, we have to change our current realities so that we can achieve the dreams. We don't have to change our dreams as per the reality. If you look at the movie, the reality was that there was not a single woman who has become an engineer. And there was not a single black woman who has become an engineer till now. So, as per the reality, Mary Jackson didn't change her dream. She changed her reality to pursue the dream. So, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, always dream big. And as we say, dreams have a very strange ways of coming true. If we keep on following the dreams and if we hold on to the dreams, they definitely come true. And that's what Mary Jackson was able to do in this movie. Let's move out to the next learning. And next learning is about work in a project phase. Because project phase is a phase where we don't work in a routine manner. Project phase is a phase where we need a different kind of mindset. In normal day-to-day routine, we can take a day off. We can say my boy is not working, my maid has not come, so I'm not going to come today for the work. But in the project phase, that is not required. We need a different kind of mindset. And what kind of mindset is required in a project phase? They say that urgencies are the order of the day. We have to be always on the high alert. And when we have to be on the high alert, so that we can respond to any situation because things are very dynamic in the project manner. And in a project manner, many times the project has been executed in such a way that it has never been done earlier. So if it has not been done earlier, there is no protocol or no precedence how we can act accordingly. So the urgencies are the order for the day, and we have always have to be on the alert mode. And when we are on the alert mode, we tend to perform our best. And in the project phase, you have to understand that we don't have to only think about our satisfactions, but we have to think about the contributions more. How are we going to contribute? In this movie, Mr. Harrison, who was the supervisor of all the team, who was managing the entire team of the Space Research Center, he says that we don't have to worry about the paychecks which are going to come at the end of the month. We have to worry about as to how we can uh, we can take over the Russians, because Russians were the people who have already launched a few rockets into the orbit, and they've already gone a few astronauts who were who have already who have taken a circumference of the entire Earth. So it was a top mission of the country of United States, so that they can beat the Russians. So that was more important for them rather than the looking for the paycheck. So they have to work in the project phase. And while we are working in the project phase, the leader also has to take care of an important thing. And what is that important thing? He needs to walk the talk and lead from the front. And as you can see in these two pictures which I have shown here, Mr. Harrison, when he tells this to all his employees, all his people, that for the next few days we have to tell our wives back at our homes that we might be very late in returning, or maybe we might not even return in the night. The days are going to be long, the hours are going to be endless, and I'm going to be the first one to call up my wife for that. And as you can see in picture number one, he picks up the phone and he calls his wife. And since he was the first one to do that, he soon sees that people who are outside his cabin, they are also calling their wives. So in project phase, it is very important that leaders have the walk and leaders do the walk the talk thing. They have to lead from the front, and then only they can manage in the project phase. So some very critical things were shown as to how we can work in the project phase. Okay, next, now move down to the next learning. And the next learning is how leaders should work, how the leaders should work so that they can enable the entire team to perform. The first and the most important thing is the leaders have to be inclusive. Mr. Harrison, who was here, he was driven by the final outcome. He says if we are going to reach there, all of us are going to reach there, otherwise no one will reach there. So he was very inclusive. Apart from whatever the gender, whatever the caste or the creed or the color of the skin, everyone was there, and they were biased only to abilities and capabilities. There was no other bias as far as Mr. Harrison was concerned. And he also demonstrated conclusive decisiveness. And when he did that, If you remember, the lady who was an expert in analytical geometry, she has a washroom which was approximately 2 kilometers from her workstation. And when she complained of that, how did Mr. Harrison responded? As you can see in the picture, he himself went out and removed the board of colored ladies' washroom. He said, "Washroom is a washroom, and anyone can go to any of the washrooms." So he demonstrated conclusive decisiveness. And once the leader did that, no one has any, no one has the audacity to challenge what he was saying, right? And he was driven by the final outcome. And if the final outcome is going to be served, he can change the protocols. There was a protocol that not even a single women employee was supposed to attend the board of rooms meetings because it has very confidential matters. He changed the protocols so that the final outcome can be attained. And if we look at it, how leaders perform or behave, if you look in this movie, if you look in this picture, Mr. Harrison is standing with both the pocket, with both the hands in the pockets. This kind of behavior is called casual and non-threatening. So most of his conversations were casual and non-threatening. He was very easy to speak, and he was also punctuating lots of his deliveries, lots of his conversations with some subtle jokes. So that made the entire ambience and atmosphere very light. So this is also one of the ways in which leaders do behave, unless and until some urgent requirement is there. And last but not the least, a leader during the project phase has full faith in each and every team member. As he displayed there, his job was to find genius from the genius who was available there. And as a result of it, they were successfully able to launch John Glenn as the first astronaut from United States into the Earth's orbit, and not only launch him, they were also able to take him back safe and sound. So that was the learning which we have just summarized from the movie The Hidden Figures. So let me go back to all the audience and just ask about any questions, any question and answers, anyone? So the field is open for question and answers, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions, any answers, any takeaways?
Hello, Kalyani this side. No
Yes,
questions. Yeah, you will remember this is one of my favorite movies. And
yes,
that
yes.
time I could not imagine all these points. Now I will watch this movie again to learn
Okay.
more in this perspective. So, yeah, very nicely explained. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kalyani, and thank you, Jimmy. And well, this is no question is there, and it always very shamelessly copied from what Jimmy says. You know, communication is also communication. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining in for this small session of half an hour on management lessons from movies. And thank you so much from the side of Square Sequel. And I've got a message which says thank you, and thank you so much. And
Thank you, Arvind. Thank
over
you
to
so
you,
much
Zia.
for taking the session. Yes, thank you so much for being part of the sequel family to take care of this session today. It was really insightful. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a good Saturday and a good weekend.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Namaskaram. Bye bye.
Thank you.